The thing I want to jump right into, though, is Bungholio, who is looking for TP for its bunghole. TP. Are you threatening me? Bungholio has it gave up on being the deputy director of the FBI, where they gave him training wheels. He had an assistant a co-deputy director of the FBI who did actual fucking work, while Bungholio sat in his office staring at four walls, listening to Kash Patel flush the toilet in the next room, right? And and then he went back to his shitpost show on Rumble, and it took him about a week. He had Trump on the first night, and then he brought in hold on, this one
really
pause. Hold on. His guest today is Krash Patel himself. Okay, here we go. This is Bungholio and Krash Patel, no doubt giving an interview that will, I guess, give Alex Jones hives.
Happy to welcome to the show today my good friend and current FBI director. He's got a lot going on, so I appreciate his time. Director Kash Patel. Kash, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Dan, we miss you, and congratulations on the relaunch of your epic show. America needs it.
Why? Well, certainly America doesn't need him as the deputy director, so, but if you ever thought he was qualified, why the fuck do you think he's better there than a podcast? I would argue I would rather have him as a shitposting podcaster on fucking Rumble than anywhere near the FBI, basically cradling the nuts of any Epstein co-conspirator. But Krash shouldn't think that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, buddy. It was great to work there. I was really
No, it wasn't. You bitched about it the whole time, you weenie.
proud of the work we put together in the past year.
Like what? Like what? When you went to fucking when Krash went to the site of Charlie Kirk's murder and was like licking rocks to see if he could figure out which way the bad guy went.
And, spoke to the president about it. He was our first guest. I'm happy to have you on. Let's get right to it. There was another episode up north of trans violence. You know, when you and I were over
this is the key. This is what most people are worried about.
there at the FBI,
and by the way, up north, he means Canada.
Had not specifically produced a good, deep analytical product on what is in this outbreak of trans violence we've seen, whether it's in Minnesota or Nashville. But as you know, over there's a limited number of FBI assets.
There's an even more limited number of trans people.
There's about 38
period, much less ones that are violent.
1,000 employees. You got to triage your threats. This is a real threat. We've seen it over and over again, and it's important that we produce a product to see what's going on here and analyze the core of this problem.
Here's the core of the problem. You're not talking about trans people. You're talking about autogynephiles. Serial killers, mass killers tend to be autogynephiles. Women haters. In general, not truly trans people, and so burdening trans people with the weight of this bullshit. Imagine if I went. There's an epidemic of lawful gun owners doing mass shootings. The vast majority of people who are committing mass shootings are lawful gun owners. Now, they're lawful gun owners until the second they pull the trigger. But up to that moment, obviously, the person that came up with the idea to open fire on their school or their place of work legally owned their gun. So clearly, if you're going to triage a threat, apparently it's legal gun owners. And you know who agrees with me? Fucking Trump. He's like, remember him? Why don't we seize the guns and do due process later?
Well, look, you hit one of the things that we reformed immediately in our first year, Dan, which is intelligence.
Well, then why would the numbers of these kind of shootings be up? And by the way, you reformed what? The definition of intelligence?
Intelligence drives operations. And if you refuse to believe the actual intelligence because of the media narrative that used to politicize the FBI, then you're going to get it wrong every time.
First of all, you can't type, shooters that are going to happen by their gender, sexual orientation, or anything. The only thing you can actually use as kind of a precursor is are they stockpiling ammo and guns? Have they posted anything online that says they're going to do something like that? But what the fuck does he talk about? You think you have to sit outside the fucking Stonewall Tavern and go, there's one? Like, you're not going to get ahead of a problem like this. You just aren't. It's a different batch every time. All these like school shootings and interestingly enough, the trans identifying shooters, which I would argue are not trans, but that's another conversation for another time. The trans identifying ones, or the ones they identify as trans, they only pay attention to because there is your brain works as a pattern seeking machine. And that's something they can see as, if 3 of them happen that are trans or call themselves trans or believe themselves to be trans or whatever, then you can group those together and then associate them with the group that you put in your brain that, you mark as trans. You put a flag in that idea and you mix these two together. Whereas the rest of them are fucking the entire spectrum. They don't have any connective tissue except the same connective tissue that all mass shooters have, which is ego. It's just ego. It is why thou shalt not covet is the important part, is the most important of all the commandments. Because that's what that is. My gripe is more important than your life. That's what that is. That's the ego that goes along with that.
And what do? We looked at the facts and the evidence. We saw a stream of violence related to transgender ideology that led to unfortunate deaths and assassinations, and we took action.
What did you do? Go look at the person after they off themselves or arrest someone after a mass shooting like you would do with anybody else? What action is he fucking talking about? Again, is this why Kash is often seen parked outside of like gay bars staring at the patrons? Maybe that's why.
Yeah, we did. And also on another.
Yeah, we totally did. Remember when we did that thing that we didn't actually do, that didn't have any doing to it?
A related topic, Antifa. I covered earlier in my
Why is that related?
show today and in yesterday's show how the prior FBI director and the prior President Biden and even Obama had played down the Antifa threat. It's an idea. You and I know that's bullshit. It's not an idea when actual action follows the idea. There was an action product that resulted from said ideas.
Yeah, just like live free or die, or you can pull it from my cold dead hands, or any of the other fucking amosexual bullshit.
Also, we, with the Prairie Land.
By the way, the entire accumulative body count of every trans-identified, or even, long-haired fucking mass shooter and damage done by Antifa pales in comparison to just one Timothy McVeigh.
Investigation and others. There's been actual action to take down and dismantle this entire ring of people.
Yeah, it's really easy to dismantle something that doesn't exist. Poof, you did it. It's like all the immigrants that are self-deporting. Yeah, they're not even here anymore. They just left because they were never here in the first fucking place.
You're right. We set out to actually activate intelligence.
Actually act on something.
Based operations. This includes Antifa. And Dan, you know this. How many people were arrested related to Prairie Land? We're over 24 federal arrests. We're in the middle of federal trial in 5 of those defendants this week again in
Wow, 5.
Texas. 19 people have been convicted for acts of violence related to Antifa.
Oh my God, acts of violence related. Let me guess. They threw a fucking Molotov cocktail at a police car, or they did standard, which shit they would have been arrested for anyways.
It's in the indictment. You don't got to believe me or you. Everybody can go read the public indictment. And it didn't just happen there. It happened in Cop City in Georgia, where we had to go rearrest everybody because the state authorities couldn't get their act together to produce the enough information to take that to trial. So we did.
And how many people did you arrest during that? Like, how many people have you actually indicted and charged? 2? Seriously. For jerking off in the fucking woods?
And it's not a creation or manufacturing of information.
Why would you say that if it wasn't? It sounds like you're a little nervous about the strength of the case.
It exists. It's just a willingness that you and I and this building's new leadership took to say, we're going to look at the facts that exist. We're not going to try to make up facts that don't. So we
Well, facts that don't exist aren't actually facts. Yeah. It's kind of like, it goes to my whole point about you can't leak a lie.
can serve a political narrative. And wait till you, and I know you know this, but wait till you see what's coming in the next month or two.
Antifa cell members indicted in Prairieland shooting. A federal grand jury indicted 9 North Texas Antifa cell operatives, dun, 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 and 7 more were charged by information with offenses including rioting, using weapons and explosives, using them. All right. Providing material support to terrorist obstruction. Yeah, because they broadened the definition of terrorism. Attempted murder of an Alvarado police officer and unarmed correctional officers at the Prairieland. That's the one guy who shot from the top and killed himself or whatever. What'd they do? Drive him there? Is that the idea? 9 whole fucking people. And 7 more were charged by information. I didn't know you could be charged by information. I thought you needed evidence. Because everything is information. But not, all evidence is information. But not all information is evidence.
On the funding streams related to this, you and I had launched a serious investigation.
Yes. And then you left.
It said these organizations don't operate alone, don't operate in silence. They operate with a heavy, heavy stream of funding. And we started looking into it. And guess what, Dan? We found them.
Director, your thoughts on this? I covered earlier in the show that there's a reason a lot of these politicized, weaponized bureaucrats try to avoid talking about Antifa as an organized group of threat actors.
Because they're not. Because there are little groups of them together and they use the name, but there is no actual hierarchy. Unlike, say, biker gangs and street gangs that do have a primary leader and that controls the cells, and they use violence to control those cells no matter how far they get away from the primary leader.
What they wanted to do,
can you dig it,
is they wanted to have all the benefits of organizing: money, publicity, the ability to use social media,
publicity,
to tell people to show up and throw rocks and bricks. They wanted to have all of that. But they didn't want to face the legal penalties. Being an attorney and now being on the FBI side, the investigative side, that the government forbids that type of criminal organization through RICO statutes, VICAR, and other things. So they want it one way. They want to organize and use it. But then when it comes to saying, well, they're organizing it for this purpose, they say, oh, no, that's not an organization. It's just an idea.
Now,
well, no, that's not the same thing. Like, them pooling their money or everybody buying fucking bottles of water for each other is not exactly RICO. That's the issue. That these small cells don't prove a greater connection between the cells. And in some cases, they might have a thread or they might talk to each other, but there's nobody going, okay, Operation Great Day of the Rope, poof, here we go, like the Klan had planned, for example.
Listen, they are retreating and backtracking through a wall that they used to be able to break through under prior administrations because
gibberish.
No one held them accountable.
Yes, you always want to retreat back through a wall that you were unable to break through.
And now, after the first,
Captain Kool-Aid actually runs Antifa
year that we reestablish how this place, how this building, how this lead premier law enforcement agency actually operates and goes.
Sorry, you're at the FBI headquarters. You had a little podcasting wood barrel put together. You added this to the FBI headquarters in this building. He's saying it over and over, in this building.
Goes after not.
You have a cute little set with a fucking flash camera over there, like it's from, I don't know what the fuck. Is that a Billy shelf from IKEA with some cameras from the 50s on it, and then a fugitive poster? Your tax dollars at work, folks. You're paying for this little makeover for a corner of his office.
Just threat actors,
so he can podcast from the FBI
overseas, and those who are willing to do harm to American lives, but those who cause violence.
Sorry, what?
Building how this lead premier law enforcement agency actually operates and goes after not just threat actors overseas and those who are willing to do harm to American lives.
Sorry, threat actors overseas. Again, you're the FBI. It's mostly internal. Obviously, there's terror threats that come into the United States, and you work with other intelligence officers. But Tulsi Gabbard's busy looking at voter rolls. but through American lives? Sorry, so we're physically puppeting Americans?
But those who cause violence here in America and use the guise
You mean like ICE in Minnesota?
of politics to delete that violence, we're not going to tolerate that.
Sorry. Delete the violence through, huh? How are they deleting the fucking violence? You can charge people just for violence. You don't need RICO to throw somebody in jail for firebombing a police station. You don't. It helps, I guess, if they came on a bus paid for by Ginny Thomas and charged up the steps of the White House, unless the president pardons them after the fact.
And these groups like Antifa and anyone else involved in these riots across the country and involved in paying for them in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, so go after Ginny Thomas and Turning Points USA. They also bust a bunch of people on January 6th.
This FBI, thanks to what we stood up over the last year, has made significant headway under the NSPM 7 process in looking.
Yes, I was saying the process. All 14 of the people that you've arrested. What an amazing sweep.
Looking at those who funded these streams and are starting to arrest people who used their funds.
Starting to arrest? So you haven't arrested them? Or one of them has been arrested? And who would that be? Like the big financiers, the people who are financially backing these whole things?
To incite violence in the guise of political peaceful protest.
Oh, you mean like walk down there peacefully and patriotically, and I'm going to go with you. But if we get there and Mike Pence doesn't have the strength to do what needs to be done, you're going to have to fight like hell, or you won't have a country anymore? You mean like that? Like hiding a riot in a peaceful statement just to circumvent the law? That's weird. Has that ever happened before? Has any large group of people almost to the person Facebooked their attack on police officers and public facilities? Maybe we could use as a case study and shit like this.
You know, Director, one of the things you did early on is to establish, what they call in business school, like BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, right? You put these 4 principles up on the home screen for everybody's computer every day. They had this National Dog Day stuff going up, which was nice and cute, but that's, it's the FBI. Let's go get bad guys.
Yeah, but unlike you assholes, normal FBI people don't need to be reminded daily of the shit they have to deal with because they actually do the fucking work. So they get plenty of it. Again, most law enforcement officers, I know I get a little pushback occasionally on this. Good and decent people who the worst day of your life is their every day. That they experience that every day. They have to deal with dead bodies and in crawl spaces and fucking shootings and fires that consume entire families and stuff all the time. So yeah, you don't need to be reminded every day why you're there, or you'd have left a long fucking time ago. So I'd rather them have something on their screen that says Happy Puppy Day, because your day's gonna fucking suck.
One of them's crush violent crime, the other on the national security front, protect.
Crush violent crime, bro. I'm gonna have it. This is how we're gonna change the theme of this place. When you walk into work, on your screen it's gonna say crush violent crime. You're like, bro, and you're gonna fucking Popeye some energy drinks and some America First Viagra straight from Alex Jones's fucking lead store. You just walk around with a patriot boner ready to fuck these dudes up.
Homeland. So on the crush violent crime front, when we got in there...
I'm sorry, it's so douchey. Really? That was his BHAG? But these are big, audacious goals. Our big, audacious goal is fucking crush violent crime, bro. It's the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's not fucking Minority Report, dummy.
Well, there was a heavy focus on a lot of things. The FBI has a lot of responsibilities. But you had said early on, listen, if the Americans don't feel safe in their neighborhoods, I don't give a damn where you live, Chicago, Tuscaloosa, doesn't matter to us, then we're failing at our job. Like, that is national security, the ability to walk out of your house and go to a bus stop without your kid getting mugged or stabbed or having some drug slinger. And we reprioritize.
Having some drug slinger, just boomeranging crack into your kid's mouth. By the way, that's a state and local law enforcement. Unless it's across state lines, the FBI has no jurisdiction over those things unless they're engaging in nationwide crimes. That's what makes it the Federal Bureau of Investigation. California has a CBI. They have a California Bureau of Investigation. They also have coordinating bodies and task force amongst San Francisco PD and LAPD and all these other groups. They do a lot of that shit. But this jackhole likes to show up, throw on his FBI jacket, and pat himself on the back for work the locals are doing. It's right out of some '80s movie where fuck, we're gonna set up this case. Feds are gonna roll in here and take credit for the whole fucking thing. And Kash Patel's like, yeah, that sounds like a good business model.
That led to, under your leadership over there, with President Trump at the top and the AG's support, a historic drop in violent crime.
Yeah, but that's on a city level, and that's been going down since 2000. The bump after fucking COVID was basically everybody jump-starting their criminal careers again. And there was a lot of people jockeying for the funds that were in other neighborhoods. So people were getting money from the government for the first time in a long time, and they were a little bit flush. So people would have a couple $100 on them where they just hadn't had it before. And so there would be more violent crime amongst those areas and in impoverished parts of the country. That faded after things got back to fucking normal and people weren't wearing masks everywhere and where people were going back to their jobs. As soon as that part faded, the targets went away as well. So the crime dropped with that.
Just the lowest levels we've seen in modern American history, but historic percentage drops too. It's really simple. You go and get bad guys off the street. I mean, you and I both agreed on this. Listen.
You don't. You're the FBI. You haven't done any of this shit. The locals are getting all the bad guys off the street. Sorry. Half of the reason why there were so many extra bad guys on the street was because COVID slowed the court system. It was dangerous to be housed in prison, so they were being deferential to allowing people out on bail or home, or giving them ankle monitors and shit like that. As soon as that dried up, magically the violent crime rate goes down because the people who commit violent crime went back to fucking jail. They actually had their day in court, were found guilty, and they went to jail, and they're there now.
I think you and I did a pretty good job. It really isn't hard when you focus them on the bad guys.
It isn't hard when you just sit on your fucking ass and take credit for local law enforcement's wins.
Well, it's not hard, Dan, as you know, as an 1811 and a former police officer, it's not hard to do the job you signed up for if you're allowed to do the job you signed up for.
Nobody's stopping you from doing the job you're signed up for. The big complaint in most cities is that DAs and judges in these local areas are releasing people. The cops can still do the job.
And President Trump and this administration,
which has, by the way, been a gripe. Go back and watch a fucking 80s cop movie. I mean, Jesus Christ, watch Cobra. There's a line in it where she's like, how does this guy get away with all this? And he's like, well, we lock him up and the judge keeps letting him out, And that's been a gripe forever.
Backs law enforcement and gave us the resources at this FBI and gave us the autonomy in you and I in running this building to remove the red tape, to remove...
He didn't run the building. He fucking sat in his room listening to the sink turn on and off. He bitched about it.
The unnecessary approvals and to get 1,000 extra agents. That's what we did, Dan. We put
and you put them in charge of combing through the Epstein files to look for Trump's name so they could be redacted.
1,000 agents into the field from Washington, D.C. We permanently removed them from the National Capital Region and sent them across to every single field office.
Which is fucking stupid, which is why you've had a lack of coordination, because that's what those guys did. There are field offices all across the country. And the reason there are not a bunch of them out there all the time is because they're not needed all the fucking time. They're needed to coordinate with all the states. It isn't that Akron, Ohio's fucking FBI headquarters needs 6 more fucking people. It doesn't. Because shit on a federal level doesn't happen in that kind of frequency and that kind of regularity. And certainly they didn't flood a bunch of people to San Francisco and Los Angeles.
And what did that do? It allowed people to hit the streets and investigate crimes, and it led to this. And I know you've seen this, but this is 1 year in the making of true historic reductions in crime. And you're
right, and that's by and large locals. There was a pushback on judges who were letting people out. Even San Francisco dumped their most liberal judge because they were being too forgiving about violent crime. That's what did it.
You're talking about a 20% reduction in murder rate. You're talking about a 30...
No, you're not, because it's not a federal fucking you're a felony. All felonies are not federal, and there's sort of a weird thing because they both start with an F and an E. Is that most people think of felonies as like that must be a federal crime and a misdemeanor is like a state crime. It's weird how people's brains work on that part of it, and that's what they're kind of using as their marker for this kind of idea. Is that mythology?
2% increase in fentanyl seizures, enough to kill 150 million Americans.
So what are you're gonna dump it in the water or what? Also, the increase in fentanyl seizures after the border was closed shows that it was never coming through the fucking border. The availability of fentanyl has not gone down.
Dan, you're talking about 4 top 10 arrests in 1 year, but as soon as you left, I had to add 2 more. So now we're up to 6. You know, I couldn't let it stand at 4. So in 1 calendar year, we arrested 6 of the FBI's most wanted fugitives in the world.
You know what I'm talking about. I was busting my ass on that one, but you know, I was like, you know. So, but hey, good job. Once I saw it on the news, I was proud of.
Who? Who was your main dude? Who are you fixated on? It certainly wasn't a crypto billionaire who'd ripped off a bunch of fucking retirees.
You and the guys.
No, you laid the and you gotta let you know those 6 go to you. You laid the groundwork for it. You work quietly behind the scenes.
No, he didn't work quietly. He was bitching on Fox and Friends.
I'm just telling you. And look, I think
yes, you worked so quietly. We don't even have a record of how you impacted any of these cases.
The audience should know. I can't even memorize these. I look at these every day, and it's just hard to believe. 490% increase in those who prey upon our children. 490% increase in arrests by the FBI. The FBI under the last year.
Again, because you guys came in and made them federal. They arrest them on a local level all the time.
Twice as many increase for violent crime from 24 to 25. Twice as many arrests. That's unbelievable, Dan. These numbers are truly historic, and that was the foundational.
Or every time Trump gets in, there's more like violence, period, because he encourages it.
Tectonic.
Watch
how milk makes you.
milk does to age-related macular degeneration.
Yes, pour it right in your eyes. Oh shit! Get out of here.
Shift you and I put into place in the FBI to let the cops go out there and be cops.
Yeah,
and this is what
like,
happens.
bro, all we had to
One
do
of the
was
things I know I've heard you emphasize a lot in interviews, and I try to hammer home too, is it's not possible without the leadership of a president who allows you to.
how does putting crush violent crime on the fucking screens of every FBI agent change the ethos enough where they're just catching on? And by the way, you'll notice he uses a percentage a lot because the numbers are so fucking small.
Work. Now, you've worked for, in the DC atmosphere for a lot longer than I had. I was a Secret Service agent, but I was not a political actor in any way. You kind of just observe it like a fly on the wall. But when you have someone breathing down your neck every 5 minutes, micromanaging every decision you make, rather than allowing you to go work, the president, he's a spreadsheets guy. I want the homicide rate and the crime rate down. He's not going to sit there every 5 minutes and micromanage every decision.
Yeah,
if you're acting appropriately within the bounds of the.
He doesn't actually care. He just likes the numbers so that he can bullshit people about them.
Constitution, following the rules and engaging in the process and getting it done. He just wants it done. But him allowing us to work.
What do you think happened with other presidencies? You think they were like, hey, why are you guys arresting so many violent criminals?
Especially after early on the successes of Viper, Operation Viper, the violent crime operation in Tennessee. He saw the results and said, guys, we got to
Jesus. Tennessee's a dump.
expand this nationwide. There's no reason we can't replicate this in cities across the country.
I think you just
Yeah, there is. It's called the Constitution.
hit upon the brilliance of true leadership in what President Trump said to you and I. He said, go reduce violent crime. Go defend the homeland. Stop children from overdosing.
Because he had to tell you this?
And let's
Sorry, you had to be told this.
protect our children online. Those are some of the priorities issued to us. But he didn't say, this is how you do it. Go do it, and I want it done this way. He gave
Because he has no idea, neither do you. You had to delegate it out to other people who were all, and they're like, yeah, we're already doing that.
Give us the priorities. You and I said, Roger that, boss. That's what the administration and the American public voted for. And then what do, Dan? You engineered operations like Summer Heat and Viper, and we went to places like Memphis and D.C. and elsewhere, and we saw a sick...
Memphis and D.C. and also D.C. and probably Memphis. And we only went to Memphis because Elon Musk has compromising information on Trump that even though they've had a split, he can't go against him.
60% reduction in the homicide rate in Memphis in the first 3 months that the FBI was on the ground there. We've been replicating that in city by city across the country. We've been
sorry, the FBI has always been in Memphis.
Focusing on Indian country, which has not gotten the attention it should have.
It's because it's sovereign territory.
We've been focusing on every piece of crime that has been ignored.
Every piece of crime. So sorry, Memphis and Indian territory. This is where you made your big gains?
Historically, and what else did we do? We put new leadership into the field that subscribed to this leadership and this administration's agenda because...
Yeah, the agenda.
That's what happens, and that's what the American people voted for. And for the FBI, it just means letting good cops be cops, and we let them go out there and arrest the bad guys. And
yeah, that's not what the FBI does at all. It's an investigatory body. They build giant cases against federal criminals and things like kidnapping and RICO cases, that kind of stuff.
When you arrest, Dan, I don't remember the number, but I think it's 68,000 arrests for the FBI last year alone. I think that's twice as many as the year before.
Kash, let's do some myth.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. What's your conviction rate? You can scoop up a bunch of fucking people, but unless you can actually convict them, I give a rat's ass. You could raise the fucking number by going, round up the usual suspects, or I want you to arrest 100,000 people this year. I don't necessarily, like, if they try to go through the court system, you'll never be able to convict them, but I want to say I'm getting the arrests up. This happens all the time. Whenever a new mayor wants to be tough on crime, they'll tell the police to do this in some cases. It's classic. This is no different.
Busting here because there's a lot of unfortunate BS out there in the media. Now, everybody, knows they have an agenda. That's fairly obvious.
And you don't?
But you see all these catastrophic apocalyptic headlines, Patel's FBI made the country less safe. Okay. I don't understand what your data is to back that up. CT arrests, counter-terror arrests are up.
Right. What's your conviction rate? Just because you're fucking rounding people up, that doesn't mean shit. That's why. Because you're just scooping up American citizens who look at you sideways or you think they're Antifa or some shit like that and they didn't actually commit a fucking crime, certainly not one that warrants federal interest. You're gonna get pushback. People are gonna go, you're busying the FBI with that kind of shit while real crime is going unnoticed.
Espionage arrests are up. Violent crime arrests.
That's also because the amount of espionage when Trump is in power, because it's encouraged and Trump has been friendly to it, both through China and Russia, they feel like they're safe enough to try it again.
Just said are up, not only up, but up dramatically. The national crime rate's the lowest we've seen in recorded history. The homicide rate's the lowest, I think, since 1900. Who even knows if they had accurate data back? Maybe the lowest ever.
Probably not.
That's just, these are really insane numbers, especially when you consider the multitude of ways now and threats evolving that people can hurt and maim and harm each other, that these crime rates have plunged. So listen, you're entitled to your opinion, and I will vigorously always protect the right to freedom of the press.
By the way, I think he's bitching about maggots. Usually he's been fighting the doomerism amongst maggots right now.
But you should at least...
And this is also a straw man in the attacks that have happened to Kash Patel amongst the maggots.
He's bedrock it in some facts. What are they? I don't understand what they're basing that on outside of their own animosity towards the Trump administration.
Well, I think part of it is the Epstein files and the fact that you're letting all of these monsters go free and you're participating in an active cover-up for them and to benefit Donald Trump with Pam Bondi. And it's obvious to everyone as more details come out what you have hidden. And that's why no one trusts any of the information coming out. It's certainly not where, that's it, that's the last of it. Nobody's going to buy that shit.
That's it. It's animosity towards this administration and anyone who actually effectuates to get it done.
Well, it depends on what it is, I think.
I mean, just think about, we just got to hit pause for a second, Dan. Why is it that we had such an explosion in crime to deal with in the first place?
Because COVID threw the world into a cocked hat?
Because the prior administration did not prioritize fighting crime and instead allowed an open border policy and
No, sorry. Deportations are lower than they were under Obama and Biden. So the idea that you're kicking out all these bad guys and that's why we have lower crime rates is just horseshit.
open crime policy to infiltrate our communities. Dan, when you have 100,000 Americans dying of drug overdoses in one...
Yeah, that's not violent crime. That's a different, it's a tragedy, but it's not a violent crime. That's not the same thing. You're not lowering the murder rate because people are overdosing less. And by the way, they aren't.
year. That's not a small problem. That is a crisis.
Right. But that has nothing to do with the FBI except for, busting, coordinated drug sales.
And if it happened under any other administration,
And the DEA handles most of that.
they would be blaming said administration. But instead, President Trump gets elected, this FBI comes in, addresses the 4 years of failure and weaponization.
Sorry, they would be blaming the administration if this happened? I think that's what you were just attempting to do.
Of law enforcement reprioritizes to go after the espionage actors, to go after the terrorists, to go...
Sorry, so you think like Chinese techno spies who came over here to steal intellectual property secrets, by going after them, you're lowering the overdose deaths?
After the narco traffickers, to go after the murderers, to go after the child rapists and the human traffickers.
Which is what the FBI does all the time.
We are up double digits, if not triple digits, on every single one of those categories. So the questions has to be asked, how did this happen? Well,
Well, A, I don't trust your numbers. But secondly, it happened because the COVID protocols went away and life started going back to normal in a cascade, and you can actually trace violent crime going down, and there has been no extraordinary drop. There is no cliff when Trump showed up. It's just on the same downward trajectory it's been on since 2000.
well, it happened in the prior administration. The answer, this administration under Trump,
It actually spiked under Trump's first term during COVID.
and this FBI and this Department of Justice delivered historic results. And the only way you can argue with that is if you have political animosity, because there is no lying in these stats. There
Sure there is. You can lie with statistics.
is no lies.
Well, then why don't you put the actual number next to them instead of the percentage? Because when people go, oh, you went from 5 to 12, and?
In these statistics, we look...
Dude, it's like 120% rise in arrests. How about convictions?
literally showed people coming off airplanes, doing operations, doing things, and this FBI participating in
Yeah, there's a lot of theater. We get that. That's been tried before.
everything from Maduro to Ryan Wedding to...
Sorry, what the fuck does Maduro have to do with, like, the FBI and street crime?
Abbey Gate capture, to the Benghazi attack capture. We have not stopped because we set this bureau on a trajectory that it has not seen in decades.
You know, and it's interesting being outside on the other side now, reading kind of the whole cornucopia of media coverage about what went on there, and then you see one side saying, well, we haven't seen a focus on public corruption, then you see the other side saying there's been too much of a focus on public corruption. I'm serious, you've seen it. You're like, well, one of those is obviously not true.
Yeah, I think your whole statement that there's apparently two sides saying we need to focus more on public corruption. That certainly isn't the Republicans. They're the ones fighting the Epstein files release. And no one is saying we're focusing too much on public corruption, except maybe Don Jr.
I mean, the FBI is always going to remain focused on public corruption.
Yeah, no matter how much. Sorry, was that one of the BHAGs? Was that like crush public corruption?
You and I know you going forward with Rhea and Bailey over there, are going to continue to focus on rooting out root and branch public corruption. You had the Letitia James case, you had the Comey case.
which failed because there was none.
The Bolton case. You've got the Kathy
Again, also failed.
Hochul staffer case. You got the Gavin Newsom chief of staff case. You got the New Orleans mayor. There was that police
Gee, it's almost like you're targeting Trump's enemies.
department case we had. I mean, these were really serious cases, but
That went nowhere.
being an attorney, these things take time.
Yeah, and attention and skill and an awareness of the law.
We're not the Department of War. We just don't engage in, kinetic action. This is a law enforcement operation that has to build cases over time.
Right, and usually the cases, for example, that have happened in the last year were actually built the year before. When you get convictions, it's usually because of the year before. So everything in 2025 was either set in motion in 2024 or earlier.
But in 1 year, there's been a lot done. And like I said, one of those stories has got to be a myth because they're both saying opposite things.
Well,
Yeah, because no one is actually saying that. Seriously, well, maybe there is. Maybe some maggot somewhere is going, we're focusing too much on public corruption. Let the criminal politicians get away with it. Maybe they're not saying it outright. Maybe they're just saying leave Trump alone, and that's what that means. Okay, that would be code for that. Sure.
it just goes to the theme that we've been talking about the mainstream media. They've been saying two things the entire time. Well, which one is it? Because
Neither. The fuck are you talking about?
they both, as you said, can't be true.
Right. And this whole conversation is horseshit. No one is like waving their fist at you to stop looking into public corruption or you're doing it too much.
If what they're saying is true, then we're lying about the arrest you just listed off. If what they're saying is true, then we're lying that we arrested John Bolton and indicted him.
Yeah, because nobody gives a shit if you arrest and indict one of the president's enemies or somebody he has a problem with. If you can't get a conviction, you're just wasting taxpayers' dollars making Trump feel good.
They're saying is true, then you and I and the FBI.
And how does that crush fucking anything? How do you crush public corruption if you can't get a fucking conviction? To some degree, beyond the fact that I think most of these people are innocent in this situation and that's why you're having a problem, it would certainly encourage some level of public corruption because they're like, they can't convict anybody.
Lying about the dozens of police officers we arrested for a multi-year public corruption scandal down in the southeastern portion of the United States. And
The southeastern portion of the United States. Would that be a red area or
everybody else that you're talking about, then which one is true? And so
again, gibberish? What the fuck? Like the FBI's never investigated like corruption amongst police officers in a district before?
think the media, and you would know this.
Okay, by the way, this whole section of it is part of this like persecution complex bullshit that they sell, that everybody's against us and the deep state and, the media are trying to stop us from being the good guys, but we're going to do it anyways because we're just fucking beating our chests about it. The reality is that this doesn't even fucking chart with any of the legit cases the FBI is going after or the obvious lawfare that Trump is engaged in. Just so fucking stupid.
Better than I.
Sniff.
At the core of it knows how successful this FBI has been, and they hate
At not getting convictions?
that it's this FBI that delivered it. And
What are you talking about? Like the only people that hate the FBI are maggots. For real. Like, didn't this asshole run on like, whatever, shutting down the FBI headquarters and turning it into a cemetery for the deep state or whatever the fuck?
not the prior administration's FBI. And I truly believe that is the reason for it. Because when you and I traveled around the country, what happened when we went to towns across America? I know it happened to you.
Golf?
People came up to us, moms and pops came up to us from every town, every corner we went to and said, thank you to you and this Trump administration for keeping our kids safe and
Yes, they did. Dear leader, thank you so much. And did they lay palm fronds everywhere you walked? This is totally normal.
keeping our murders off the streets and keeping the drugs out of our communities.
Temporarily, and then when you leave, they all come back because this is really just a show.
And letting our children have a safe environment to grow up in. I heard it over and over again.
Letting them?
It's not something you and I personally did. It's what this FBI delivered.
Right, and it always does, only now you get to show up and throw on the jacket and pretend you're a part of it.
We were leading it, and we're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, that's why I say to folks all the time, I don't like when people say, well,
Do both of these guys sleep on their left side, and is it just me, or is their nose listing to port?
Twitter X, it's not the real world. It's the real world. People have real opinions. I understand that. But I'm just telling you, I mean it from the bottom of my, sometimes broken heart, man. I did. I traveled around. I never heard anything but good news from people.
Yeah, who the fuck do you think is able to walk up to you and say shit? It is a curated group of humans. You're not sitting in a fucking rando restaurant. You're not sitting at a fucking KFC. You're surrounded by sycophants and Trump fans all the time. Who the fuck expects that from the community? Especially in law enforcement.
About
Jesus.
the progress that was being made. Of course, there's a lot to fix. No one's suggesting everything's done. There's a lot more work to be done, as you know. I was explaining to the audience.
Like what? What's left to be done? What do you think? Just name one thing that, very possibly you might want to work on.
So in my first show, how when actors are at your level in the government, when people are principals and deputies and a cabinet level or cabinet kind of equivalent positions, everything's a level 10 decision, Cash. Yeah. A level 10 meaning there's a pardon the language, but a shitty decision and a shittier one. Because if there was a good decision to be made, someone else made it. And then when those decisions, that's every day. I know you know.
No, it isn't. No. Every day is not a fucking shoot the hostage moment. That's not even remotely fucking true of the head of the FBI. And if it was, that's your own fucking fault. The deputy director isn't being asked to be the last defense or the trigger puller on something awful. What the fuck? That's just insane. No, you could argue that maybe at some point in the Pentagon or on a presidential level, God help us. But the FBI director isn't bitten. All right, do we arrest this person or let him go? We've got a choice. We can send in SWAT door to door to try and find this serial killer, or we can just nuke the town from orbit. What the fuck are you talking about?
It's because I would knock on your door and you'd be like, what now? And I'd be like, here we go again. Like something else would come up.
Like what? Like name one fucking thing.
But I just want to put into perspective for folks out there, when that decision can't even be made by me, it goes to you. When it doesn't go to you, it goes like to the president's desk. He's dealing with like level 11 decisions. And that's the thing in DC.
Watch what milk does to age-related macular degeneration.
If you can't drive at night because of...
That's why the batting average isn't always going to be 1,000. There's no good call to be made or someone else would have made it. There's just really...
Wait. No. You can't just go, it was impossible to make a good decision in this situation. It's just the nature of the choice itself, not my own ignorance or ineffectiveness or the idea that I have no fucking idea how anything works, or that I'm a conspiracy theory fucking sycophant sitting there scrolling on fucking Twitter instead of doing my fucking job while I'm the deputy director of the FBI. No. Sometimes there are decent and easily made decisions about stuff that have to get clearance from the FBI because of the budgetary reach or the assets that have to be moved from one area to another. But this idea that somehow that, people are just going to be mad no matter what decision you make. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're guided by the rules in the Constitution. If you have to find a bad guy someplace, it's not that other people are going to bitch about it. Why'd you have to arrest him? I recognize he's a fucking cannibal serial killer, but he's great at mowing lawns. Who am I going to get now?
Tough decisions where, there's a shit call and a shittier call. And listen, that's what we signed up for. That's how it rolls.
And that's why you quit? Because you didn't want to do them?
Look, yeah, these are difficult decisions, Dan.
Like what?
And that's why you volunteered to jump back in. It wasn't just going to be...
And jump right back out.
Hey, we're going to do this job. It's going to be super easy. We're not going to have to make any hard decisions. And we're not going to have to combat a...
It's not hard decisions. You just have to do the fucking work. What he means by hard decision is you're going to have to actually read this brief because there's technical decisions that have to be made here and they require attention. That's what he's talking about. It's not, you're not talking about like a fucking trolley conundrum every fucking day.
A press corps that has largely been biased and full of
Wah. Fucking shut the fuck up with the wambulance about the press. We have a First Amendment for a fucking reason. Stop bitching about it. Live within the system we are. Stop being un-American and bitching about the press.
inaccurate reporting. But
Inaccurate. You wish.
we made those decisions collectively in the best interest of the nation. And if we hadn't, then none of this would be true. None of this would be possible. If President Trump had made the hard decisions.
All right, Carrot Top, listen. Put down the props and actually speak to what's supposedly on there instead of just taking credit for statistics that you had no hand in.
To allow us and give us the resources that we need and to back the blue in law enforcement.
Oh, yeah, into a corner like you did on January 6th.
To prioritize working with state and local authorities, then we wouldn't be able to
prioritize working with state and local authorities. That's literally the mandate of the FBI. That's what the FBI has to do. They have to be invited into one of these law enforcement districts. They can't forcibly go in.
do what we did. But you're right. We had a lot of hard decisions. And
like what?
That comes with the territory of...
No, it doesn't. What are you talking about? A hard decision isn't one where you had to do fucking homework.
The job. But once
Jesus.
you look outside of the cauldron of Washington, D.C., and this is one of the things that, I'm trying to remind myself of every day.
When you fly back to Las Vegas to stay with your male roommate, which I'm sure if you were a Democrat, people would be fine with. But if Republicans found out the reality of it, they would have an issue. Not my problem. Clearly yours.
Outside of here, there is a different America than the one that lives in the national capital region.
Yeah, that's like saying Walmart headquarters is different than an actual Walmart. What's your fucking point? It's supposed to be, you dumb son of a bitch.
And I try to remind myself every day when making those difficult decisions that you talked about.
Like what? Has anybody heard what one of these difficult decisions is? Anybody? Does anybody have any fucking idea what he is talking about in terms of like difficult, like cut the blue wire decisions? Not a single I have no idea. No fucking idea. It just sounds like he's trying to make his job more important than it is.
That we make on a daily basis. That
like what? You made one today. What was it? What was yesterday's? Don't tell me about it. Tell me one that happened 10 weeks ago so you're not affecting something. What the fuck?
We are making a decision collectively for the rest of America.
Oh, I see. So you're having to make so you have a committee gathered to cut the blue wire. Jesus Christ.
Not just for the minority of people that are living part-time in Washington, D.C., pulling the levers on Capitol Hill and such.
What the fuck does that mean? Again, this is all just like gobbledygook. This is like management speak.
Kash, I know you're busy here, so I'll...
Yeah, he's got a bomb ready to detonate right in front of him, and he's trying to decide which wire to cut just by feeling it.
I'll wrap it up with this, but I think this is the most important question. You get the President's Daily Brief, the PDB, every morning.
He doesn't get it, but you do.
It's it's called the PDB because they brief the president, but
I see. I don't know. So I thought it was like people are just big fans of Patrick Bet-David show, but they can't get the order of the consonants right.
The principals across the IC and elsewhere do get access to that, and you get pretty much everything the president gets in that item. I'm not even allowed to say how the delivery mechanism, but you know.
Let me guess. It used to be a piece of paper or a series, like a small booklet, and now it's done on a video screen because Trump gets bored easily. That's why you're not allowed to say it. Who gives a shit, the format? Are there videos to watch on it? Then gee whiz, it shows up on his computer through a secure channel?
When you're getting that brief, yeah, they told me that day one. When you're getting that brief, the threats now, when you see the president speaking about things like a bigger footprint in Greenland and the Monroe Doctrine of hemispheric dominance in this part of the global hemisphere.
Yeah, it seems like manic overreaction to threats that are persistent.
The president's basing that on a threat you see every morning, and these threats are not the threats from the 60s. You have things that are out there in the media, the attacks on the grid, typhoon. You have potential, EMP attacks. You have hypersonic missiles. You have threats from space, underwater, everywhere.
Yeah, and those aren't the FBI's job. That's why we have a Department of Defense, and that's why we have a CIA, and that's why we have a DNI in theory.
President, you, Ratcliffe, Tulsi, you're seeing that every single day.
And you don't handle almost any of it.
Some of the stuff you see in the media, it's amazing to watch an 18-year-old journalist with no experience in any of this stuff critique a lot of what the president's doing without any of the background to see why he's doing it. They're fair to do it, freedom of speech, but when you see it from the other side, it makes a lot more sense what he's talking about.
No, it doesn't, because you have to be able to justify these things and not just go, there's a threat coming. We're not in fucking Don't Look Up.
And Dan, you know why it's called the President's Daily Briefing? Because
they keep it brief because he dozes off.
the president decides what are the intel priorities in that briefing. And President Trump has decided what...
Sorry, what? So he's not going by the threats that are actually there. He's prioritizing what he wants to see. So all this crazy shit is being funneled to exactly the threats that fit his agenda. Now who's the dumbass?
Intel priorities agencies like the FBI and CIA are to act upon. That type of leadership.
That's not leadership. That's real estate acquisition via the Pentagon.
Is what has led to the historic reduction in crime.
How? What the fuck? Yeah. What the fuck does that have to do with fucking Greenland and Venezuela?
That type of leadership is
With the Donroe Doctrine.
what led to us capturing 6 of the FBI's top 10 most wanted fugitives. That type of leadership got us, the Abbey Gate bomber and the Benghazi bomber, on top of the 6. That type of leadership, Dan, you know this, enabled us to do the Maduro operation, which the FBI played a role in, and all these other operations,
Played a role.
most of which we can't talk about, but that type of leadership led to a 35% increase in espionage actors by this FBI alone. And what the president doesn't get enough credit for is he's the one that directs the intelligence in the presidential daily briefing.
Right. So we're missing every threat Trump can't think of. This is fucking crazy.
To set the priorities for this FBI to...
No, you don't you set the priorities from the briefing. You get all the information and then you prioritize what you think is from all the stuff that's coming in, what you want to focus on because you have limited resources in each of these areas, and then you meet with cabinet members to deal with those parts of it. You don't go, I only want to hear about this shit and any threats that don't fit what I think is going on in the world, fuck it. Because that's what it sounds like. Am I wrong? Chat room. This is fucking bananas. Why in the world would, it sounds like he is censoring input. And that's, in the president's daily brief, you should be aware of as much as you can possibly absorb at the presidential level. And then you should be able to go into the detail on each of those things with your cabinet members that are directly related to that and delegate that information and decision making in each of those sectors. But you don't go, I don't want to hear about that shit. Stop sending me stuff about I don't give a fuck. But that certainly explains why Trump doesn't give a shit about Sudan, for example.
act. And this FBI is able to act because he has the foresight to see what
Sniff.
evidence, what intel needs to be actioned, and what...
No, he doesn't. He determines beforehand what he wants to hear, and then he funnels all the intel into what he wants to talk about, and he ignores anything that doesn't fit his worldview. And he's already stupid.
Evidence and what intel is garbage. And he has the audacity...
How does... Again, right. What's garbage? Stuff that he doesn't care about. Why the fuck are we trying to save people from malaria in Africa? I don't get it.
And I think rightly so, to call out some of the false reporting that's in this, or some of the mediocre reporting, which is why we have...
It's not reporting. It's intel. And if it's mediocre, it's because his cabinet and each of the, and I guess the Joint Chiefs as well, putting together their part of it every day, are the people he's chosen who suck at their jobs, including you.
And we don't have time to talk about it today, but you know this. We reformed the Directorate of Intelligence. That's rolling out this year. We're sending 1,000 more personnel out into the field.
The Directorate of Intelligence, I think. Is that what he's talking about?
To support the staff and support operations. But it's intelligence driven. We started the program talking about intel, and it's a good place to end the program. But the president's daily briefing is directed by President Trump, and that's what led to this success.
Hey, that's fucking crazy. You're literal. Basically, he just doesn't want to hear anything he's not interested in. And so if any of the asymmetric threats come from an area he hasn't considered, we're fucked. It's one of those situations. Remember, you guys ever seen? Fuck this dude. You ever see like an old spy movie or something, or a action movie from the 80s, early 90s, where there's fucking Clear and Present Danger, for Christ's sakes, where you've got a CIA or intel guy who's found a real threat and can't get the people up the chain to get it to the president because the president isn't interested, doesn't want to hear about it, or it goes against his agenda, or he's running for office, so he can't. This will fuck up his campaign and all that kind of stuff. Like that story, that's actually playing out right now. That's what he's talking about. That there are intel people and FBI agents and other people who, if Trump isn't interested in the threat that they're talking about, that intel will never get to him. Gee, it's almost like COVID was built for Trump as a president, and God knows what's going to come while he is around this term. Holy shit, man.